Now, the cost of the household food basket continues to rise due to local and global factors, with worse said to still to come. Shoppers have expressed frustration at having to shop around for the best possible price for essential items, bargain hunting. A global factor that has a direct impact on the rising food prices is the disruption of fertilizer markets, and the Russia and Ukraine war is not making matters better, as Russia is currently the world's largest fertilizer exporter. Let's discuss the situation now with Mr. Martin Ackerman, Chief Economist at Citadel. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you very much for your time. I mean, we've spoken about this time and again here on eNCA. Things are not really looking any better. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, I think there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, but it will take a bit of time. If we first go back to US inflation that printed last week, that was a monster number, 9.1%. But we did see the first month-on-month decline where the base cost is coming in. And that was on something like airfares. So that's not everything, something that everyone spent money on. But the point is, for inflation to keep going at this rate, we need to see a similar increase over the next 6 to 12 months, which is quite unlikely. To give an example, if the oil price just stay where it is at the moment, come February next year, oil energy will actually be a minus 50% contribution to the inflation basket. Now in SA, it's not different at all. Our inflation is currently driven by energy cost, which is up about 30% compared to a year ago. And then also the food inflation, that is up about 8%. But if you dive into the food inflation, the biggest component there is actually cooking oil, which actually increased by about 30% over the last year. And that is, like you said in the intro, as a result of the war in Russia-Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the biggest exporter of cooking oil. That on top of the fertilizer is impacting all food costs. In SA, the impact is really felt by each and every household because the majority of our consumers spend most of their money on transport. So that's the energy petrol component, and then obviously buying food. And like I've said, that is the two major components at the moment. We get the inflation data coming Wednesday this week, and it will probably be around 7%. We haven't seen a number like that. And yeah, like I said, it could probably get a little bit worse. But you've asked about the light at the end of the tunnel. Just of late, we started seeing energy costs coming down. So oil is now back to 100, where it used to be, 120. So it won't happen immediately, but that relief will come into the basket. And very importantly, some of the major agricultural soft commodities, including the cooking oil that I referred to, palm oil, we've seen quite a significant decline over the past couple of weeks as the world is now fearing for a recession. So I think inflation is not going to be a runaway number, and going into 2023, declining commodity prices as well as the base effect, consumers are likely to see some relief in terms of inflation numbers.
Come Thursday, interest rates in the country are likely to go up. We're waiting to hear what the Reserve Bank's MPC is going to say. And if they do go up by the expected 50 basis points, that impacts on the cost of living, doesn't it? Because higher rates will affect more things.
Yes, yeah, you're 100% right. So at the moment, we're sitting with a couple of things. So if you think about a consumer, majority of consumers that's privileged to have a job, at this point in time won't see inflation-linked wage increases. So your real disposable income is already under pressure. And then what is left in your purse, you pay more, like we've already said, every time you go to the shop for food, or when you make use of whether it's your own transport or public transport. And then on top of that, the Reserve Bank to actually, two things, try and prevent inflation from running away, but also being cognizant of what the other central banks in the world are doing, is likely to continue hiking rates, maybe not as aggressive because we've got a slightly less of an inflation problem compared to developed markets, where they're already sitting, like I've said, 9% and we're closer to 7%. Our demand side inflation in SA is also fairly weak. So a lot of the inflation that we see is out of our control. Supply issues that we import from around the globe. But on top of that, yes, if the central bank increase interest rates, then those consumers with debt, that's just another amount that needs to be paid from a purse that's already under pressure.
Yeah, you mentioned the word recession. I know that technically the definition is you need a couple of negative growth, negative quarter growth or quarterly growth. But I mean, when you look at it and you're looking at what's happening around, you feel like the economy is in recession.
No, you're 100% right. You know, if you look at consumer confidence in the developed world, they actually now feel, you know, consumers are more depressed compared to the COVID crisis or 2008. So consumers are already feeling as if they're in a recession. And that is in a world globally where, if you think about developed markets, we see full employment. So everybody that wants to work in a country like the US, Europe, or UK can actually work. So it's not an employment issue, but they feel exactly the pain that we are talking about, that they are paying so much more for food, petrol, and then also mortgages or interest rates going up on your property. So consumers are feeling like we're in a recession. We're not there yet, but the risk for a global recession significantly increased over the past couple of weeks, given these deteriorating fundamentals. So we feel like we're in a recession. Technically, like you said, we need to have 2 negative quarters. We haven't seen that yet in any country around the world, especially the developed markets. And in SA, we're fortunate that, you know, we just recovered everything back to pre-COVID levels. And right now we are benefiting slightly from stronger commodities, also a bit of an export tailwind. So the likelihood for recession in SA is also probably not imminent. But that aside, consumers are feeling as if, and not just feeling, we are in a very tough economic environment.
Thank you for your views and time this hour on Today on eNCA. Martin Ackerman, Chief Economist at Citadel. And on the right side of your screens right now, you can see government officials, including President Matamela Ramaphosa, participating at a local Nelson Mandela Bay municipality cleanup operation, trying to clean up some of the waterways there from pollution. You could see a little bit earlier the president there using a stick trying to hook out the plastic bag that's blocking the waterway. And he was joined, of course, by Oscar Mabuyane, the Premier of the Eastern Cape, plus a number of other government officials. He's joined this local community there today as he was in his walkabout on a visit specifically around the water crisis in Nelson Mandela Bay. The residents, they're concerned about making sure the municipality does not get to day zero. The province of the Eastern Cape, where Nelson Mandela Bay municipality is situated, has been experiencing drought for a number of years now. So President Matamela Ramaphosa on the ground there, assisting as well.